The War of 1812 was fought by the United States and its indigenous allies.
Admit, when I went to find you, I told myself, this is the last time. It's you, or nothing.
Against the United Kingdom and its own indigenous allies in British North America. These tensions originated in the long-standing differences over territorial expansion in North America and British support for Tecumseh's Confederacy, who opposed U.S. colonial settlement in the Old Northwest. These escalated in 1807 after the Royal Navy began enforcing tighter restrictions on American trade with France and committing impressment on American sailors, raiding their ships, kidnapping the men, claiming that they're still British subjects. Even the ones with American citizenship certificates. Opinion in the U.S. was split on how to respond, and although majorities in both the House and the Senate voted for war, they divided along strict party lines, with the Democratic-Republican Party in favor and the Federalist Party against. News of British concessions made an attempt to avoid the war did not reach the U.S. until late July, which by the time the conflict was already underway. The war had been preceded by years of diplomatic dispute, yet neither side was ready for war when it came. Britain was heavily engaged in the Napoleonic Wars. Most of the British Army was deployed in the Peninsular War in Portugal and Spain, and the Royal Navy was blockading most of the coast of Europe. At sea, the Royal Navy imposed an effective blockade on U.S. maritime trade, while between 1812 and 1814, British regulars and colonial militia defeated a series of American attacks on Upper Canada. The abdication of Napoleon...
Bro, you're not Napoleon, nigga!
Early 1814 allowed the British to send additional troops to North America and the Royal Navy to reinforce their blockade, crippling the American economy. In August 1814, negotiations began in Ghent, with both sides wanting peace. The British economy had been severely impacted by the trade embargo.
I just love my dog!
The Federalists convened the Hartford Convention in December to formalize their opposition to the war. In August 1814, British troops captured Washington, which ended up being, quote-unquote, named the Burning of Washington. The Burning of Washington was a British invasion of Washington, D.C., the capital of the U.S., during the Chesapeake Campaign of the War of 1812. It was the only time since the American Revolutionary War that a foreign power has captured and occupied the capital of the United States. Following the defeat of an American force at the Battle of Bladensburg on August 24, 1814, a British army led by Major General Robert Ross marched on Washington, D.C. That night, his forces set fire to multiple government and military buildings, including the White House, then known as the Presidential Mansion, and the United States Capitol. The attack was in part a retaliation for prior American actions in British-held Upper Canada, in which U.S. forces had burned and looted York the previous year and then had burnt large portions of Port Dover. Less than 4 days after the attack began, a heavy thunderstorm, possibly a hurricane and a tornado, extinguished the fires and caused further destruction. The British occupation of Washington, D.C. lasted for roughly 26 hours. 4 American victories at Baltimore and Plattsburgh in September ended fighting in the north. In the southeastern United States, American forces and Indian allies defeated an anti-American faction of the Creek. In early 1815, American troops defeated a major British attack on New Orleans, even though the Treaty of Ghent had already been signed 15 days before formally ending the war. The Battle of New Orleans, the reason that battle was fought was because Andrew Jackson
He railed against nullification and quietly began to prepare the army for war. Behind closed doors, he told friends he would invade South Carolina and hang its leaders.
Walk right by the curb, they can't tell me. I'm smoking on the rise. This bag I got all orange like a fuck. My bitch, she said she want me next.
himself didn't get the message that the war was over until 15 days after. And right after the battle,